Hello, I'm Will and this is Mike with the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And in this video we're looking at issue 29 of Warhammer 40,000 Combat Patrol, which came with the final two Aeldari Windriders to complete the unit of 6 and the standard Aeldari Combat Patrol. So we'll be looking at the painting instructions for the Windriders and then playing a game where we'll introduce the Windriders to the battlefield. But we'll have a look through the issue first. So we start off with the painting guide for the Windriders, because these are being painted as the same handcraft world in the magazine. We start with an all-over undercoat of Mephiston red, which actually makes up about 80 or 90% of the model, so make sure you get a nice smooth coat by doing several watered-down layers. And then the rest of it is mostly just details. So we've got Abaddon black for the cushions and the underside of the bike, then Corax white for the helmet, like the other Guardians. Then lead belcher for the engine and the handlebars and a couple of other bits. Acrylic blue for the eyes, and then some washes. So we have Nuln oil on the metal part and also on the helmet to get into the recesses. And then relayering the helmet with Corax white finally on the parts that aren't the recesses, so you get a nice bright colour again. And once you've done that, you can then glue them onto the flying stand. You don't actually have to glue them because the ball and socket joint does stay together without glue. That way you can actually angle them, but if you want them to be permanently fixed, make sure to hold them for a little while they're drying so that it stays in the position you want. And there they are up to this point with a good solid coat of the base colours. Then we learn some more about the Drukhari, the depraved cousins of the Asuryani. Their society is split up into various groups and factions fighting for power, influence, and control. So cabals are essentially warrior sects, and most Drukhari aspire to join a cabal because it offers them some measure of protection from the resources of the cabal. But even within the cabals, there is a lot of infighting and power play, and they would not necessarily hesitate to stab each other in the back if they thought they could advance their position. And these make up the majority of the military might of the Drukhari when they go on their raids. There's also the witch cults, which are made up of gladiatorial fighters, essentially, who battle in the great arenas of Camorra and have honed their skills of combat to a high art. They often accompany the cabals on raids so they can bring back slaves and monsters that they can use in their arena displays. And then we have the homunculus covens. The homunculi are a caste of Drukhari who are obsessed with experimentation on living creatures, performing modifications to living creatures, and even being able to bring them back from the dead. And most Drukhari who can afford it will be fully paid up with the homunculus covens so that if they die they can be brought back in a new body to make sure their soul doesn't get devoured by Slaanesh. And the homunculi often accompany raids so they can deploy their latest creations on the battlefield and obtain some more test subjects. Then we have more background on Camorra, the Dark City itself, a gigantic city within the webway that defies really rational thought, being not bound by the usual limits of material dimensions, and it functions as a hub for pirates and slavers and other unsavoury characters. And the most powerful Drukhari in Camorra is Asdrubal Vecht, who has actually ruled the city for thousands of years and maintains his position through a delicate balance of intrigue and subtly applied power where necessary. In the high spires themselves are actually occupied by flocks of scourges, who are Drukhari who have actually had modification to give themselves wings and had their bones hollowed out so they can fly. And they hire themselves out as mercenaries to the highest bidder. There's also great workshops that make and maintain the technology of the Drukhari, which is just as advanced as that of their Aeldari cousins, but typically engineered for much crueler purposes, like this raider you can see here. In the sub-levels there are shadowy creatures called mandrakes that haunt the sub-dimensions that lie around on the fringes of the city. And there are the great gladiatorial arenas where the witches ply their trade. But that will be the look at this issue. I'll hand you over to Mike now, who will be talking to us about more of the core rules and then taking us into our game where we'll get to see the Windriders in action.
Before we get into today's game with some more of the core rules, we're going over the command phase first. So this is all things we've seen before. It's just officially spelling it out. So in the command phase, both players will gain one command point and any other abilities happen. And then once all of those are done, you move on to the battle shock step. And we've seen all these before, but again, if a unit is battle shocked, there's an OC characteristic of 0. They fall back, they must take desperate escape tests, and they can't use stratagems, which I'm not sure if it was stated before, but it's officially stated now. Other things to note, when you gain command points outside of the command point you get at the start of the command phase, you can only gain one other command point per battle round. And then we have a couple more concepts. So the starting strength of a unit is the number of models it has, or if it's a single model unit, then it's the number of wounds it has. A unit is below half strength if it has less than half of its remaining models left, or again, if it's a single model unit, less than half of its remaining wounds left. And when every model in a unit has been destroyed, the entire unit is destroyed. And going over attached unit, so this is when you have a leader attached to a unit. The unit itself is called the bodyguard, and the total starting strength of the attached unit is the number of models in the leader unit plus the number of models models in the bodyguard unit. And for any rules that trigger when a unit is destroyed, that occurs if all of the models that make up the individual units of the attached unit are destroyed. So if you have a leader with a bodyguard, if the bodyguard is destroyed, then any rules that would apply as a result of a unit being destroyed would apply then. So say if you score victory points each time an enemy unit is destroyed, when the bodyguard unit is destroyed you score 1 VP, and you also gain another VP when the leader is destroyed. And then we have the overview of the Aeldari Combat Patrol. So here we have the Fate Breakers, goes over all of the units in the Combat Patrol and what they're equipped with. We have a Farseer, Guardian Defenders, so 10 Defenders, and then a heavy weapon with a Star Cannon, 6 Windriders, 4 of which have Shuriken Catapults and 2 have Scatter Lasers, and then the Wraithlord, which has a Bright Lance, 2 Shuriken Catapults, and the Ghost Glaive. And there's a nice picture of the entire Combat Patrol there. So looking back at the previous issue, we have the datasheet for the Windriders. So they've got 14-inch move, toughness 4, 3+ save, 2 wounds, leadership 6, and OC of 2. They're either armed with scatter lasers or twin shuriken catapults. Scatter laser at a 36-inch range, 6 attacks, hitting on 3, strength 5, AP 0, 1 damage. Where the shuriken catapults are basically the same as the ones that the Guardian Defenders have. They have assault and twin linked with an 18-inch range, 2 shots, hitting on 3, strength 4, AP 1, 1 damage. But they're only on with basic close combat weapons, but have 3 attacks. And they also have the patrol squads rule. So rather than deploying them as a single unit of 6, you can split them into 2 units of 3, and each unit of 3 has a 1 scatter laser and 2 shuriken catapults, and you just say you're going to do that at the start of the game. And their special rule is swift demise, so whenever they make a ranged attack, if they target the closest eligible target, they can reroll hit rolls of 1, and if that target is also in range of an objective marker that the opponent controls, you can reroll all hit rolls instead. As a reminder of Twin Linked, if a weapon has the Twin Linked keyword, you can reroll wound rolls. Other notable keywords is they have fly, so they can move over terrain, and they have mounted, which might be relevant in the future. And then back to the current issue, some tactics overview of the Windriders themselves. So it goes over their weapons. It suggests that the Scatter Laser has a lot of attacks and high strength, so it's good at taking out tough enemy units, whereas the Shuriken Catapults have assault, so they can fire them when they move, so it makes it a very manoeuvrable unit. Again, it goes over patrol squads. You're going to set them up as 2, and some strengths and weaknesses. So they're very fast, and they can fly, obviously being jet bikes, and they can move around terrain fairly easily. They can put out quite a serious amount of fire, and obviously with their speed they can stay out of danger, because they're not very good in close combat. And then it shows some examples of swift demise, basically different examples showing when and where the unit will get rerolls. As long as they're shooting at the closest enemy target, they'll get rerolls. And you can see in the bottom right example, even though they're shooting at a unit that's on an objective, they don't get rerolls because it's not the closest possible target. And now we can get into today's game, Strike Force. So we've got our 2 battle mats set out. There's 2 objectives. There's 1 objective right in the middle of the board and 1 in the middle of the left half of the board. There are 3 spawn points for the Tyranids, each with 5 Termagants in it. Spawn point 1 on the left, spawn point 2 at the top and 3 at the bottom. While the Windriders are on the right hand side of the board, set up as 2 units of 3. And in this game, if a Tyranids unit is destroyed, the Tyranids player rolls a d3 in their next command phase and deploys another unit of 5 Termagants in the corresponding spawn point. And it says the player with the highest number of victory points at the end of the 4th battle round is the winner. It doesn't actually say how you gain victory points, so I don't know, I guess we'll do 5 for each objective and then 5 if you have more than your opponent. And the next couple of pages again are just example turns. It's just things to note when using your Windriders and how best to play to their strengths. And the same thing for the Tyranids. And as usual with these scenarios, on the back page has the different victory outcomes, so you can pause and read them up and choose which side you want to root for as we get into our game. So here we are deployed, got my 3 units of 5 Termagants, 1 in each spawn point, and I'll give you a nicer close-up of the jet bikes.
Yeah, so there are 2 units of 3 as instructed, and the central one of each squad has the scatter laser. It's kind of hard to see from above, but it's a slightly longer gun.
And they don't say who goes first, but in the example the Aeldari go first, so we'll go into Aeldari turn 1.
So here you can see my movement phase, where both units of jet bikes have moved up. One has moved on to objective 2, and they'll be closer to the top unit of Termagants. The other has moved a little bit less far, so that it's 1 unit of Termagants will struggle to tie up both units of jet bikes by charging, and that one's closer to the bottom unit. And then they can do some shooting. So we'll start with the bottom unit, going to shoot the closer unit of Termagants to the camera. I'll start with the scatter laser, which has 6 shots, and these hit on 3s, and I can reroll 1s because they are shooting the closest unit, but it isn't on an objective. And no 1s, we've got 3 2s instead, so 3 hits, and these are wounding on 3s because it's strength 5. 2 wounds with no AP.
5+ saves, they both.
And then we had 2 twin-linked shuriken catapults, which hit on 3s, rerolling ones as well. Hit them on the box, well, they all hit. And then they wound on 3s as well because they're strength 4, but I can reroll any fails because they have twin-linked. So I can reroll those 2s, and that would be 4 wounds with AP -1.
6 is to save. Save 1, that's 3 dead Termagants.
And then the other unit of Windriders will shoot the Termagants at the top, and they are the closest target to them. Again, starting with scatter laser, well, they all hit. Wounding on 3s. 4 wounds from the scatter laser.
5s. Made 1. 3 dead so far.
And 4 shuriken catapults, re-rolling once because the closest target. Getting 3 hits. And 3 wounds, no need for rerolls.
6s. No, that unit of Termagants is dead.
But then that will be the end of my turn. I'm not going to declare any charges.
Yeah, and then on to Tyranids turn 1. So in a normal game, you wouldn't score victory points for objectives in your first turn, so I'm not going to score any there. The unit of Termagants that's destroyed comes back, D3 for where it comes back in on. So it comes in on spawn point 1. The original unit from spawn point 1 is going to stay where it is because it's in range of a unit of Windriders. The new unit has advanced to get onto objective 2 and take that from the Aeldari, while the 2 remaining at the bottom have moved into the middle normally. Might try and charge so they can get in the way of something. In the shooting phase, I'm just going to shoot everything at the unit of 3 Windriders that are on objective 2. 12 shots in total, hitting on 4s. And you know what, I might as well spend a command point to re-roll one of these misses, because I don't really have that much use for them otherwise. Assuming it's not a battle shot one. No, so it's 5 hits. Wounding on 3s because it's strength 5. 4 wounds with no AP.
So 4 3+ saves for Windriders. We failed 1, and I'll spend a command point to re-roll that. No, still failed. We lose a wound.
And then you know what, the 2-man unit of Termagants is going to charge the unit with the wounded model. And they roll an 8, which I think will be enough to get them in range. So I'm going to send them in like that. And then they get 2 attacks on 4s, getting a hit, wounding on 5s, well, wound.
Oh, and a 3+ save. Oh dear. Well, I guess I'll have to spend a command point because I don't really want to lose a Windrider. Succeeded, but they actually have 3 attacks each, which isn't too bad. We're hitting on 3s.
No rerolls though, because it's only for ranged attacks.
Yeah, however, that was not a great roll. And then they'd be wounding on 4s because they're only strength 3 still. Well, they got 2 wounds.
Can a Termagant survive? No. Well, that will be it. The bikes get to consolidate a little bit onto the objective, and we'll head into Aeldari turn 2.
So both units can move and shoot because nobody was stuck in melee. So the one with the wounded biker is moving to objective 1, and the other one is moving to objective 2. Incidentally, of course, I didn't get any victory points because the Tyranids held both objectives at the start of the turn, and then they will both shoot. But we'll start with the one on objective 1, shooting the Termagants over there. Scatter laser can reroll all hit rolls now because the target is on an objective. So they all hit, and they wound on 3s, getting 5.
5 saves, made 2. And you know what, I'll re-roll 1 as well. Nope, still only 2, so it's 3 dead.
And the shuriken catapults, re-rolling, they will hit. And they get to re-roll wounds as well because they're twin linked, so 4 wounds at 81.
6s, no, so that unit is dead.
So that's one unit destroyed, but then the other one on objective 2 will try and repeat the feat. And we can re-roll the misses with the scatter laser. Oh, they still missed. And we've got 2 wounds from the scatter laser.
5s, made both.
So that means we get the shuriken catapults need to do well. They can re-roll to 3 hits. And a re-roll on the wounds. Only 2 wounds as well.
6s, no, 2 dead.
So there's still too many Termagants on objective 2, so the Windriders are going to charge them. Only need about a 4. Yeah, they're in. 9 attacks between them, hitting on 3s. 5 hits, wounding on 4s. 3, that's what we need. Actually, you know what? I've got a command point, so I'll spend 1 to reroll one of those fails as well. Right, 4 wounds.
5 to save. Made 3. And you know what? I'll reroll that. No, 1 dead. And then I've got my 2 hitbacks from my Termagants. We get a hit. Don't wound. There's the state of the board at the end of Aeldari turn 2. Aeldari in control of both objectives. Heading into Tyranids turn 2. I don't control either objective, so no victory points for me. So I'll roll for my reinforcements. So 1 unit in spawn point 2, that's at the top. The other unit in spawn point 1. And then battle shock for those 2 Termagants still engaged. They're okay. You should 8. The unit of 2 is going to stay engaged. I've moved the unit at the top so it's closer to the second unit of jetbikes at the back, and the unit on spawn point 1 is just going to appear right next to the objective, while the 2 free units are going to shoot at the unit of Windriders with the wounded model. 10 shots, hitting on 4s, 3 hits, wounding on 3s. We got 1 wound.
1 3+ save. Made it.
Onto the charge phase, so the unit on spawn point 1 will charge the unit of jetbikes next to it, while the other unit is going to charge the other unit of jetbikes. Roll for the guys on spawn point 1, a 9 is easy enough, and the other unit gets an 8, that'll be enough as well. So both of those charging units go first. I'll do the ones on the left first. 5 attacks hitting on 4s, getting 1. Wounds on a 5, it doesn't, and the other unit misses entirely.
Then I get to pick. I'll do the ones over here on Objective 2, I suppose. They'll attack the new unit that's just come in, even though the other one hasn't fought yet, because they can potentially kill more Termagants that way. 3s, not with a roll like that. I'll spend a command point to reroll one of the misses as well, because I'm probably safe from dying, so there's 5 hits and 3 wounds.
5 plus armour, made 2, so 1 dead Termagant. And then my 2 remaining Termagants on another unit, well, they both hit, and 5s to wound, no.
Finally, we've got the jetbikes on Objective 1, 9 more attacks, 6 hits, wounding on 4s, 2.
5s, made 1. Might as well re-roll that because I don't need it for anything else. Nope, 1 dead Termagant. Well, here's the state of the board at the end of Tyranids turn 2, on to Aeldari turn 3.
I don't gain any victory points because the Tyranids hold both objectives still, and I don't have to take any battle shock tests. I don't have any pistols to shoot with, but I'm not going to fall back because if I can kill enough Termagants, at least on Objective 1, I will actually end up holding it. So we're going to stay in melee and hope not to actually destroy any Termagant units, just to kill enough to hold the objectives. But in the fight phase, the Tyranids get to go first.
So I'm going to pick the unit of 4 Termagants on Objective 1, because they might kill that wounded bike. 4 attacks on 4s, getting 2, 5s, nope.
So I'll do the unit on Objective 2, and they're going to attack the Termagants that have 4. 3s. Still can't average above 50%, and only 2 wounds.
And yeah, I will take that. I'll just do one of the 2 pairs of Termagants on Objective 2. Getting a hit. No wound.
Then I've got 3 bikers on Objective 1. 3s. They managed 7 hits, and still only 2 wounds. Those Termagants have fought, and that's the one I was worried about dying, so I will re-roll. Nope, still only 2.
2 5 plus saves. Made 1. I'll re-roll the fail into a fail. And finally, 2 more Termagants on Objective 2. Getting a hit. Or wound.
3 plus. Ah, saved.
Oh, well, there we are. On to Tyranids turn 3. So nobody holds Objective 1. If I make both of these battle shock tests for both of my 2-man Termagant units, I will hold Objective 2 and get some victory points. So the first unit failed, and the second unit failed. And then we're just straight to the fight phase, I think, with the Aeldari go first.
And I will pick the unit that's at risk with the wounded model, so they'll fight over there. So 9 attacks again, only 4 hits this time, and 2 wounds.
5 plus, made 1. You know what, I'll re-roll it. Nope, 1 dead. I'll do one of the 2 Termagants on the Objective 2. I'll do the unit on the right. They miss.
Then we can hit the other unit back that hasn't fought, I suppose. Ah, there we go. They've finally figured out how to use their melee weapons, and they get 8 hits. And 4 wounds.
And that unit is killed. And I've only got the 2 Termagants on Objective 1 left to fight. And they get a hit. And it wounded.
Oh, 3 plus. No. Got a command point. Phew.
So that Windrider is saved again. And that's the state of the board at the end of Tyranids turn 3. Onto the 4th and final battle round. In Aeldari turn 4.
So in the command phase, I do actually hold both objectives now because I have more OC on both of them. So I will gain 15 victory points by our homemade rules because I hold both objectives for 5 each, and then more than the Tyranids for another 5. I don't need to make any battle shock tests, and then I'm not going to fall back, so we'll be straight to the fight phase where one of the Tyranid units can go first.
Yeah, we'll go for the 2 on Objective 1. 2 attacks. We got a hit. And a wound.
With a 3 plus save, we're fine. And the 9 attacks from the other unit. Getting 6 hits. And 4 wounds.
And that unit of Termagants is dead. So just the other bikes to go.
Yes, and they also have 9 attacks. Back to only 4 hits and 3 wounds.
And oh, they're still. I might as well re-roll that fail then. No, 1 dead. So just 1 Termagant remaining. So I think the Elder definitely won, but I might as well just play out the final turn. So Tyranids turn 4. The first unit of reinforcements appears in spawn point 1. The second one appears in spawn point 3, and the lone Termagant is battle shocked. So you can see after my movement, a unit appearing at spawn point 1, which will give me, they do appear before scoring, so I do technically score 5 victory points, and then the other unit has moved up. Basically going to try and charge those Windriders and kill that wounded one. But with that one guy in melee with them means we can't shoot that unit, so my Termagants have to shoot the other unit. 10 shots on 4s, 4 hits, wounding on 3s. 3 wounds on the other unit of Windriders.
3s to save, we made them.
And then charging, both units going to charge the unit of Windriders with the Wounded Man. So first unit gets a 4, that'll be enough. And the other unit gets a 7, that'll be enough. So we're all going in, see if we can kill the wounded Windrider. And I'll roll both units together. So again, the 10 attacks hitting on 4. Getting 5. Now you know what, we'll re-roll 1. Into a hit, 6 hits. Wounding on 5s. 4 wounds.
With a 3+ save. Oh no, we failed 2. Well, I will re-roll 1, but does mean that a Windrider will die. So I've only got 2 left, and they'll actually, out of spite, try and kill the Battleshot one because it hasn't fought yet. 3s. 5 hits, and 3 wounds.
And it's dead. And that's it, the end of the 4th battle round. That'll be an Eldar victory, 15 victory points to 5, based on our own bizarre victory conditions. But we'll recap that game for you now. So that was the game for issue 29 of Warhammer 40,000 Combat Patrol magazine. How do you think that went?
Kind of better than I thought it was going to be, because I thought I would be able to shoot a bit and then get bogged down in melee for the rest of the game, which I did, but the melee went a lot better than I was expecting. Based on the game with the Guardians, where they all have strength 3, no AP melee attacks, and didn't do very well, I thought we weren't going to be able to kill the Termagants, but with 3 attacks each, it's actually not that bad. I still wouldn't call them good in melee, but as we can see, they can completely delete a unit of Termagants with shooting, even only 3 of them can manage, and especially if the Termagants are on an objective. Not surprisingly, they're good against light infantry because they have a lot of shots with low AP but decent enough strength. With enough shots, they'll obviously also trouble even Space Marines or something.
Yeah, you shoot Space Marines enough and they'll go down.
And the speed and the number of melee attacks mean that you can actually zoom across the board and shoot something that's on an objective and then charge in and hopefully take it, because actually with OC2 they're not terrible at holding objectives either. Obviously their only major downside is that they're still quite flimsy. I mean, compared to Guardians, they're quite tough, with extra toughness, 2 wounds and a 3+ save. But they still go down to concentrated firepower. Like 10 Termagants shooting at them is not really a serious threat.
Yeah, and I guess the only other thing to note is that the Combat Patrol, their loadouts are probably actually quite weak, because you can have special weapons on all of them normally.
Yeah, in the full rules you can add a heavy weapon to all of them, so you can imagine all 6 of them being with scatter lasers, or shuriken cannons as the other option you get in the kit. I have actually put magnets on these, so you can swap the weapons out, so for other games I can equip them all with those guns, because the shuriken catapults, their only real benefit is that they have assault, so you can zoom a really long way across the board and still shoot with them. But for this, yeah, then the shuriken catapults are still decent.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a bizarre scenario, because the victory condition is whoever had the most victory points, but obviously didn't know how to do it, so we just made it up.
Oh yeah, we did wonder whether maybe they'd intended it to be another one of these survive 4 or 5 battle rounds again, but I think with the Windriders that would actually be quite easy for them, because they have a decent range on their guns, so they could just sit at the back of the board, shoot any Termagants they've got close enough, and then run away if they did get charged.
Yeah, and it would make the objectives a bit pointless as well. Kind of nice to see the Eldar actually win one of these for once, after the Farseer and the Wraithlord and the Guardians.
Yes, none of those games went all that well. This one felt, as I said at the beginning, it felt like it was going the same way, but then it turned out okay in the end.
And we do have the full Aeldari Combat Patrol now as well, which is nice, so we should see a bit more variety in the games we play, just because there's more matchups available.
Yes, and obviously the Windriders add speed to the Combat Patrol. We can now see, the shape of the whole force. You've got the big, tough Wraithlord, the Farseer who'll join the Guardians, who have a bit of firepower and stand on objectives, and the Windriders who can go around, shoot opportune targets and take objectives. So obviously their stratagems and special rules, when we get those, will support that. And the models do look pretty good. I mean, much like the Guardians, they're just an update of an old design without too much changing, but the old design was quite good to start with, so they look pretty good. The only thing I complain about is the flying bases are really annoying, because they tend to fall over quite easily. You can angle them how you want, but the size of the base just means that they're quite wobbly.
Yeah, they're just sort of naturally top heavy as well.
Yeah, it doesn't really help.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the only base sizes they do for flying stands are sort of 32mm or 60mm. They really need a 40 or a 50. And anyway, I don't think there's too much more to say about this game or this issue. So as always, if you like this content, do leave a like and subscribe. We'll be seeing more of the Eldari in the future issues, and if you play Eldari or you played their Combat Patrol, leave any comments how you've been getting on with them, or how you're getting on with the collection as a whole. We've been the Tabletop Donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.